The torches lining the throne room cast dancing shadows across stone walls carved with ancient wolves. But I wasn't looking at the carvings. I was staring at two alphas, who looked identical in every devastating way except the hunger burning in their eyes. Twin alpha kings. Thomas sat rigid on his throne, dark leather armor fitting him like a second skin, long hair pulled back to reveal a face carved from stone and dominance. His golden eyes assessed me with cold calculation, a strategist deciding if I was weapon or weakness. Trevor leaned forward on his throne, armor scarred from countless battles, dark hair wild around his shoulders. His golden eyes burned with barely restrained need, a warrior deciding whether to claim or conquer. My Omega Wolf whimpered, "Submit, run, submit, run." Their combined scent pine forest, worn leather, raw male dominance wrapped around me until breathing became impossible. My defective wolf, the broken thing that couldn't fully shift, suddenly stirred with awareness I'd never felt. "Choose one of us tonight, Omega," Thomas commanded, his voice resonating with alpha authority that made my knees weak. "My brother or me, your king and mate." The words escaped before wisdom could stop them. "Can I have both?" The throne room went deathly silent. Golden eyes flared molten. And I knew, with terrifying certainty, that I'd just changed everything. 3 days earlier. The forest didn't feel like freedom anymore. It felt like the space left over after the world had finished belonging to everyone else. I pressed my back against rough bark, dragging in shallow breaths as wind shifted through the pines. The scent of damp earth filled my lungs, threaded with an undertone I could never escape my own sweet scent, soft and wrong. Wrong because I couldn't control it. Wrong because it had gotten me cast out. Defective, my father had called me, his lip curling like the word tasted foul. The memory bit deeper than the cold. The pack had gathered under the full moon, their wolves shifting with practiced ease, sleek fur, powerful limbs, perfect. I'd tried to follow. Bones cracked, skin stretched, claws pushed through my fingers, and then stopped. Halfway, caught in between. I'd fallen to my knees, body broken in that grotesque in-between form, until pain forced me back to human. No fur, no wolf, just me. Small, shaking, reeking of failure. My father had stepped forward, alpha aura pressing down like a boot on my throat. "She can't shift," he'd announced to the watching wolves. "Her sense unstable. She's a liability." His eyes cut through me. "You're not my daughter. You're a defect." The pack hadn't argued. They'd opened the border and pointed to the trees. Run, or die. So I ran. Now, 3 months later, I crouched in the underbrush listening for the only thing worse than my father's voice, armored footsteps. The king's men had been combing the outer lands for days. I'd caught snatches of conversation, words like curse, prophecy, mate. Each time, my wolf went very still, as if she knew they were hunting for something that sounded like me. "Not me," I whispered. "They don't mean me." A branch snapped to my left. I froze, heartbeat slamming into my ribs. Metal clinked against metal, followed by low voices. Male, confident. Close. I inched backward, toes digging into cold soil. If I could just slip deeper. "Don't move." The command rolled over me on a wave of alpha power so strong my knees buckled. I hit the ground hard, breath punched from my lungs. My wolf flattened, spine bared in instinctive submission. Boots stepped into view, black leather, braced like they owned the earth itself. A gloved hand fisted in my tattered dress and hauled me upright. "By the gods," the soldier breathed, inhaling sharply. "We actually found one." Panic flared, sharp and wild. I twisted, kicking out, nails raking uselessly at armor. "Let me go." Another guard caught my wrists, pinning them. "Careful. The kings want her alive." "I'm not going anywhere with you." I spat, even as my body trembled under their dominance. The first soldier leaned in, sniffing my throat like I was prey. "You reek of fear, little wolf. You don't get to decide. I'm not some broodmare you can drag to market." "No," he agreed. "You're something far rarer. Your hope." Chains wrapped around my wrists, cold iron biting skin. They marched me out of the forest and onto the main road. I stumbled barefoot on packed dirt, the world widening with every step. Fields stretched out in ragged patches, crops withered and gray. The stories about the curse were true. The land itself was dying. We passed villages where people paused to stare. Eyes followed me wide, hungry, afraid. Whispers snapped at my heels. "Is that her?" Thought they were all gone. Maybe the kings can fix the curse now. I kept my chin up, even as heat crawled up my neck. Their gazes clung to my bare legs, my tangled hair. Part of me wanted to vanish. Another part, the stubborn shard that had survived exile, lifted its head. Let them look. The castle rose ahead, all black stone and sharp towers, like it had clawed its way out of the mountain. Banners bearing twin wolf sigils snapped in the wind. My feet faltered. A shove between my shoulder blades sent me stumbling through towering gates. They didn't take me to a dungeon. Instead, guards marched me up spiral stairs to a small chamber bed, hearth window overlooking cursed fields. They unhooked the chains but kept the cuffs. "The kings will decide what to do with you tomorrow," the taller guard said. His gaze lingered on my throat. Then he looked away almost respectfully. "Rest. You'll need it." The door slammed. A lock clicked. Silence crashed over me. Tomorrow. The word coiled in my gut like a living thing. I drifted to the narrow mirror. A stranger stared back. Hollow cheeks, moss-stained dress, wild blonde hair. But her eyes were the same. Too big. Too hopeful for someone who should have learned better. Slowly, I lifted my hand and touched the side of my neck. Bare skin. No mark. No claim. No proof anyone had ever wanted me enough to sink their teeth in and say mine. My throat tightened. I'd spent months telling myself I didn't want that. That I was better off alone than bound to someone who saw me as a burden. But here, with a kingdom's fate whispering under the floorboards, the truth slipped through. I wanted to be chosen. I wanted someone to look at the cracks and decide I was still worth holding. My reflection wavered as tears filled my eyes. I pressed my palm harder to my neck, imagining the heat of a bite, the weight of an alpha leaning over me, the quiet certainty of belonging. "Stop it," I whispered. "You're not for kings. You're not for anyone." Outside, footsteps passed. Voices drifted through stone. Curse worsened with the last blood moon. Prophecy spoke of one to save us. What if the kings go feral? The words faded, but their shape stayed, sharp as broken glass. I curled on top of the blankets when night swallowed the sky, too restless to slip beneath them. Sleep came in, fits jolts of memory, flashes of golden eyes I'd never seen, a voice like thunder murmuring, "Choose." Each time I woke, my hand was on my neck. By dawn, my eyes felt raw, my stomach a hollow pit. I had no plan, no power, just a broken wolf and a fate I hadn't asked for. The scrape of a key in the lock snapped me upright. 2 armored guards stepped inside, expressions carefully blank. "The Twin Kings will see you now." The throne room stretched endlessly before me, but I wasn't looking at the ancient wolf carvings on the stone walls. I was staring at 2 men, no, 2 alphas who looked identical in every devastating way except the hunger burning in their eyes. Twin Kings. Thomas sat rigid on his throne, dark leather armor fitting him like a second skin, long hair pulled back to reveal a face carved from stone and dominance. His golden eyes assessed me with cold calculation, a strategist deciding if I was weapon or weakness. Trevor leaned forward on his throne, armor scarred from countless battles, dark hair wild around his shoulders. His golden eyes burned with barely restrained need, a warrior deciding whether to claim or conquer. Their combined scent hit me like a physical blow pine forest, worn leather, raw male power. It wrapped around me until breathing became impossible. My wolf stirred with awareness she'd never shown before, pressing against my ribs with something between terror and longing. Submit, run, want. Anna Carter. Thomas's voice resonated with alpha authority that made my knees weak. "Do you know why you're here?" I forced my chin up despite the trembling in my limbs. "Because you need something from me. We need everything from you," Trevor said roughly, and the honesty in his tone caught me off guard. Thomas gestured to a tapestry hanging behind the thrones, a massive wolf rendered in silver thread, its body split down the middle by a jagged black line. "Our kingdom is dying. The curse that binds my brother and me is spreading. Crops fail. Wolves lose their ability to shift. Our people starve while we slowly go feral. The prophecy says only one can break it," Trevor continued, rising from his throne. His movements were predatory grace as he descended the stone steps. "A shared mate, an omega who can bond with both of us equally." Ice slid down my spine. "Shared? You're the only one left," Thomas said, standing as well. Together, they created a wall of dominance that made the vast room feel suffocatingly small. Every other omega in the kingdom was killed by the curse or fled to safer lands. "You're our last hope." Anger flared hot and sudden in my chest. "So I'm a tool? A cure?" "Your survival," Trevor said, now close enough that his scent wrapped around me like a physical touch. Ours and the kingdom's. And if I refuse? Thomas's expression didn't change. Then we all die. You included. The curse spreads to anyone who enters these lands now. You felt it the moment the guards brought you through the border, didn't you? The pull, the beginning of the bond. He was right. I had felt something, a hook lodged beneath my breastbone, tugging me toward the castle, toward them. There's a choice you need to make first, Thomas continued, his golden eyes holding mine. Which of us you'll bond with? My heart stuttered. What? Pack law is absolute, Trevor said, voice tight. One alpha, one mate. We may be twins, cursed to share a fate, but you can only belong to one of us. The words landed like stones in still water. Thomas descended the steps with controlled precision. I can offer you power, protection, a place beside a king who'll value your mind. You'll never be just a mate to me, Anna. You'll be my equal. I can offer you passion, freedom, Trevor said, his voice dropping lower. A mate who'll worship you every day, who'll fight wars to keep you safe, who'll make you feel alive. They stood on either side of me now, close enough to touch. Two alphas, two futures, one impossible choice. My wolf writhed, torn between them. Thomas promised safety, respect, the life I'd always been denied. Trevor promised fire, devotion, everything my broken heart had secretly craved. How could I choose? The question escaped before wisdom could stop it. Can I have both? The throne room went deathly silent. Thomas's control cracked. I watched it splinter across his face like ice breaking. Trevor's alpha growl filled the room, a sound that vibrated through my bones and made my wolf bare her throat in instinctive response. That's... Thomas's voice was rougher now, strained. That's not how mating bonds work. Defiance flared through my fear. I met his gaze, then Trevor's. Then maybe your prophecy is wrong. Or maybe I'm exactly the kind of broken that can fix this. You're not broken, Trevor said, the words almost a snarl. He stepped closer, golden eyes blazing with something that made my breath catch. Don't ever call yourself that again. The intensity in his voice, in his gaze, crashed over me like a wave. Behind me, I felt Thomas's presence, equally overwhelming. For a long moment, no one moved, no one breathed. Then Thomas and Trevor exchanged a loaded look over my head, some silent conversation passing between them that I couldn't read. Twin alphas who'd shared everything their entire lives except this. Except me. Thomas spoke first, his tone carefully measured. We'll give you 30 days. A trial period, Trevor added, still watching me like I might disappear. For all of us. My pulse hammered. A trial? To see if what you're suggesting is even possible. Thomas circled to face me fully. 30 days to explore the bonds. To see if you can truly connect with both of us. If the curse responds. And if it doesn't? I whispered. Trevor's smile was sharp and humorless. Then you choose. Him or me. And if I can't? Then we all burn, Thomas said simply. The weight of it settled over my shoulders like a cloak made of iron. 30 days to break a curse. 30 days to choose between two alphas who looked at me like I was salvation and destruction wrapped in one fragile body. 30 days to decide if being broken meant I could love them both, or neither. Do we have an agreement, Anna? Thomas asked. I looked between them, strategist and warrior, ice and fire, two halves of one impossible whole. My wolf surged up, pressing against my skin with sudden certainty. Yes, the word hung in the air like a promise, or a threat. Thomas's eyes flashed gold. Then let the trial begin. The chambers they gave me were situated between two heavy oak doors. Thomas's room on the left, Trevor's on the right. A deliberate placement that felt less like courtesy and more like strategy or temptation. I stood in the center of the space, taking in the four-poster bed draped in deep burgundy, the stone fireplace already crackling with warmth, the window overlooking cursed fields that seemed slightly greener than yesterday. Luxury I'd never imagined, positioned precisely between two alphas I couldn't stop thinking about. The first week passed in a rhythm that felt dangerously like belonging. Mornings belonged to Thomas. He came for me after dawn, always knocking, always waiting for permission to enter. We'd walk through the castle's vast library, his voice low and measured as he taught me the kingdom's history. Wars won and lost, alliances forged, the bloodline curse that started generations ago when his ancestor betrayed a witch. Knowledge is power, he said one morning, handing me an ancient tome. You'll need both if you're to survive here. You're treating me like an equal, I said, surprised. His golden eyes met mine. Because you are one. On the 4th day, we sat in his private study, a room no one else was permitted to enter. Afternoon light slanted through tall windows, catching dust motes in the air. Thomas poured wine into 2 goblets, his movements precise, controlled. "Tell me about your pack," he said gently, settling into the chair across from me. The question caught me off guard. No one had ever asked. No one had cared. "They cast me out," I said finally, fingers tightening around the goblet. "My father said I was defective. My wolf. She can't fully shift. Can't control when my scent flares. Don't." Thomas set down his wine and leaned forward. "Don't finish that sentence. I'm broken, Thomas. You know it. That's why the prophecy." He moved faster than I expected, crossing the space between us and kneeling in front of my chair. His hands cupped my face with a gentleness that made my breath catch. "Anna, look at me." I did. His golden eyes burned with intensity that had nothing to do with Alpha Command and everything to do with something raw. "You are not broken," he said, each word deliberate. "You're unclaimed. There's a difference." Warmth bloomed beneath my breastbone, sudden, overwhelming, undeniable. It spread through my chest like liquid gold, a connection forming where none had existed before. The beginning of a bond. My wolf stirred, pressing against the sensation with something like recognition. Thomas felt it too. I watched his pupils dilate, his breath catch. "Anna," he whispered, and my name on his lips sounded like a prayer. Nights belonged to Trevor. He found me in the gardens after dinner, always grinning, always restless. "Come on," he'd say, grabbing my hand. "Can't have you soft if you're going to be our queen." He took me to the training grounds where moonlight turned everything silver, pressed a practice sword into my hands and taught me how to hold it, how to move, how to defend myself. "If you're our queen, you need to be able to protect yourself," he said, circling me like a predator assessing prey. His hands adjusted my stance, fingers on my hips, guiding me lower. His breath ghosted across my neck as he corrected my grip. Every touch sent heat spiraling through me, made my wolf pace restlessly beneath my skin. "You're a natural," Trevor murmured, voice rough with something that wasn't just pride. On the 7th night, we abandoned training and lay in the grass, staring up at stars scattered across the sky like broken glass. "I've been alone my whole life," Trevor said suddenly, quietly. "Even with a twin, Thomas has always been the smart one, the strategist. I'm just the weapon he points at problems." He turned his head to look at me. "I'm terrified you'll choose him and I'll be alone forever." My heart cracked open. I found his hand in the darkness, laced my fingers through his. "I'm terrified I'll choose wrong and lose you both." Trevor went very still. Then he moved fast and desperate, rolling to hover over me. His golden eyes searched mine, wild with need. "Anna," he breathed. "Yes." He kissed me like I was air and he was drowning. It was rough at first, all desperation and hunger. Then I opened to him, responding, and the kiss gentled into something unbearably tender. His hand cradled my jaw. His weight pressed me into soft grass, and every nerve in my body ignited. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. "Gods, Anna, your scent." I felt it then, the change in my body. Slick heat between my thighs, arousal coating the air, my wolf surging forward with primal need, the beginning of something dangerous. A heat. Trevor's growl vibrated through my chest. "Anna, you need to go. Now. Before you what?" A cold voice cut through the garden. We both froze. Thomas stood at the garden entrance, golden eyes molten in the moonlight. His nostrils flared as he scented the air scented us. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. "My turn tomorrow," Thomas said, voice dark with possession that made my thighs clench. His gaze locked on Trevor. "Step back from her." "Now," Trevor's alpha growl answered, rumbling low and threatening. "She's not yours to command. She's not yours to claim. Not yet." The air crackled with alpha rivalry so thick I could taste it, lightning about to strike. And I stood between them, caught in the storm. The second week brought tension that crawled through the castle like smoke. Thomas and Trevor circled each other like wolves vying for territory, sharp words over breakfast, challenging stares across the council room, their combined alpha dominance so thick the servants walked on eggshells. And always, their eyes found me, hungry, possessive, competing. I'd had enough. "I won't be a prize you compete over," I snapped after Trevor physically blocked Thomas from walking me to the library. Both alphas went still, eyes flashing gold. Figure this out or I'm done with both of you. I stormed away, heart pounding, half expecting them to follow. Neither did. That evening, a knock came at my door. Soft, hesitant, not the commanding presence I'd come to expect. Thomas stood in the hallway, hands clasped behind his back, jaw tight. "May I speak with you, privately?" Something in his voice, a crack in that perfect control, made me nod. He led me to his study, the intimate space he'd shown me once before. This time felt different. The fire burned low, casting shadows that made the room feel smaller, more vulnerable. Thomas poured wine with hands that trembled slightly. He caught me noticing and let out a rough breath. "I need you to understand something," he said, settling beside me on the leather sofa. Close. Close enough that his pine scent wrapped around me like a blanket. "Understand what?" He stared into his wine for a long moment. "Our mother tried to break the curse alone. She thought if she could find the right spell, the right sacrifice, she could save us without waiting for a mate." His voice went hollow. "She died screaming in agony while Trevor and I watched. Too young to help, too powerless to stop it." My chest constricted. "Thomas, I swore I'd never let anyone else I cared about suffer because of this curse." His hands shook harder now. He set down the goblet before it spilled. "But now you're here and I can't lose someone else, He stopped. Couldn't say it yet. I took his hands, feeling the tremor in his strong fingers. "You won't lose me." Thomas's golden eyes snapped to mine, blazing with desperation that stole my breath. He pulled me close, forehead pressed to mine, his exhale shuddering against my lips. "Choose me, Anna, please." His voice cracked, the controlled king shattering into the broken man beneath. "I'll spend my life making you happy. I'll give you everything. A ragged breath. "I'll beg if that's what you want." Seeing him vulnerable, this powerful alpha on the edge of breaking destroyed every defense I had left. I kissed him, not desperate like Trevor's kiss. This was slow, deliberate, deep. Thomas groaned against my mouth, his control shattering like glass. His hands tangled in my hair, tilted my head for better access, his body pressing me back against the sofa cushions. Heat flooded through me, different from what I'd felt with Trevor, but just as consuming. Thomas kissed like he strategized thorough, claiming every inch of my mouth until I couldn't remember my own name. When he finally broke away to trail his lips down my jaw, my throat, I felt his teeth graze the sensitive junction of my neck and shoulder. "Mine," he breathed against my skin, scenting me, marking me with his presence. The bond flared hot and bright between us, golden threads weaving tighter. Then guilt crashed across his face. "Gods, Trevor will." The study door slammed open. Trevor stood in the doorway, eyes molten gold, body vibrating with barely restrained fury. His alpha presence exploded into the room like a shockwave. "You're claiming her without me?" His voice was gravel and rage. "After everything we agreed?" Thomas stood, putting himself between Trevor and me. "I wasn't claiming. I can smell you all over her." Trevor's canines elongated, his wolf pushing to the surface. "You think I'm just gonna stand aside while you take what's mine?" "She's not yours," Thomas roared back, his own alpha nature rising to meet the challenge. Power crackled between them, two dominant wolves on the verge of tearing each other apart. "Stop!" I shoved between them, heart hammering, every instinct screaming this was dangerous and foolish and necessary. "Stop it right now!" Something inside me unlocked. Power flooded outward, warm, calming, undeniable. It radiated from my body in waves that crashed into both alphas like a physical force. My wolf surged forward, no longer broken but whole, her presence commanding submission from even the strongest predators. Thomas and Trevor froze mid-snarl. Their wolves bowed instinctively, unable to resist. I stared at my own hands, glowing faintly with golden light. "This is my power," I whispered, understanding blooming. "This is what I can do." Omega authority, not submission, command. I turned to face them, both these twin kings who'd been fighting over me like I was spoils of war. "I won't choose between you," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. "But I won't be torn apart by your rivalry either. Figure out how to share me or lose me completely. Those are your options." Thomas's jaw worked. Trevor's hands clenched into fists. Neither spoke. I walked past them, head high, leaving two stunned alpha kings in my wake. That night, I woke to fire in my veins. My skin burned. My wolf clawed beneath the surface. Slick heat pooled between my thighs, soaking through my nightgown. The sweet scent of my arousal flooded the room, thick and undeniable, my first true heat, and I felt the exact moment both kings scented it. Down the hall, Thomas's door slammed open. On the other side, Trevor's did the same. Heavy footsteps, twin growls, alpha commands that made the castle guards scatter. They were coming, both of them, and my body was calling them home. The heat consumed me like wildfire. I twisted in sweat-soaked sheets, every nerve ending screaming for relief I didn't know how to find. My wolf howled beneath my skin, desperate and aching. The room spun with fever-bright colors, and all I could smell was pine and leather and alpha, so close, too far, everywhere and nowhere. A knock shattered through my delirium. "Anna!" Thomas's voice, strained with barely leashed control. "We need to come in. Now," Trevor added, rougher, more desperate. I tried to answer but only managed a whimper. The sound of it, needy, broken, made me hate myself even as my body arched toward the door. The lock clicked. They'd used a key. Both kings stepped into my chambers simultaneously, filling the doorway like twin gods of war and want. Their eyes blazed molten gold, nostrils flaring as my heat scent hit them full force. I watched their control fracture, watched them struggle against instincts that demanded they claim, conquer, take, but they didn't move. "Not yet. We talked," Thomas said, voice like gravel, his hands clenched at his sides, knuckles white. "We have a proposal. Let us both claim you," Trevor finished, taking one careful step forward. Together. Through the fever haze, their words registered. Both. Together. Not competing. Not tearing me or each other apart. "Yes," I gasped, reaching toward them with shaking hands. "Please, both of you." They moved as one. Thomas reached me first, kneeling beside the bed and cupping my face with trembling hands. "We'll take care of you," he murmured, golden eyes searching mine. "I swear it." Trevor appeared on my other side, his calloused palm sliding down my arm, grounding me. "Tell us if it's too much. Tell us if you need us to stop." I couldn't imagine stopping. Couldn't imagine anything but finally belonging. "Don't stop," I whispered. "Please don't stop." Thomas kissed me slowly, reverently, like I was something precious he'd spent his whole life searching for. His lips moved against mine with deliberate care, tasting, claiming, savoring. Behind me, I felt Trevor's hands gathering the hem of my nightgown, lifting it inch by careful inch until cool air kissed overheated skin. The fabric disappeared. I should have felt vulnerable, exposed. Instead, I felt worshipped. "Beautiful," Trevor breathed, his voice wrecked. "Gods, Anna, you're perfect." "So perfect," Thomas agreed against my mouth before trailing kisses down my jaw, my throat, the curve of my shoulder. They moved in synchronized harmony, years of being twins, translating into knowing exactly how to share without competing. When Thomas claimed my mouth, Trevor's lips found the sensitive spot behind my ear. When Trevor's hands mapped my curves, Thomas's fingers tangled gently in my hair. They took turns, building pleasure slowly, carefully, like I was something fragile they refused to break. Trevor worshipped my body with his mouth trailing kisses down my spine, across my ribs, along my thighs, while Thomas whispered praise directly into my ear. "You're ours, Anna. Both of ours. So strong," Trevor murmured against my skin. "So brave. Made for us," Thomas added, his voice thick with emotion. "Only us. And you're both mine." I managed between gasps, my hands finding them, holding them, anchoring myself to their solid warmth. The bonds between us glowed brighter with every touch, every kiss, every whispered confession. I felt them in my chest, golden threads weaving tighter, connecting the three of us into something larger than ourselves. "Anna," Thomas said, pulling back to meet my eyes. His face was raw with vulnerability. "Are you sure?" I understood what he was really asking. The claiming bite was permanent, sacred. Once given, it couldn't be undone. I looked between them, strategist and warrior, ice and fire, two halves of one impossible whole that had somehow become mine. "I'm sure." Trevor positioned himself on one side of my throat, Thomas on the other. I felt their breath ghost across my skin, felt the sharp edge of canines that could tear or cherish. "Together," Thomas said. "On 3, Trevor agreed. 1, my heart thundered. 2, my wolf surged forward, ready, eager, whole. 3, they bit down simultaneously. Pain and pleasure exploded through me, white-hot, overwhelming, perfect. The mating bonds didn't just snap into place. They erupted, flooding my entire being with sensations so intense I couldn't tell where I ended and they began. I felt Thomas's love fierce, protective, terrified of losing me. I felt Trevor's devotion desperate, consuming, certain I was worth dying for. And they felt me. My fear that I wasn't enough, my hope that maybe finally I could be. My love for both of them, so vast and impossible it had nowhere to go but everywhere. The emotional connection crashed through all three of us like a tidal wave. Thomas groaned against my neck, his arms banding around me. Trevor's hands tightened on my hips, holding me like I might disappear. We collapsed together in a tangle of limbs and racing hearts, utterly bound. My broken wolf suddenly made perfect, beautiful sense. She wasn't defective. She was designed for this, built to hold multiple bonds, to love without limits, to be the bridge between two alphas who needed each other as much as they needed me. "I love you," Thomas whispered against my temple, his voice cracking. "Gods help me, I love you." Trevor nuzzled into the curve of my neck where his claiming mark now burned. "I've loved you since you stood in that throne room and refused to be afraid." Tears streamed down my face, joy and relief and overwhelming rightness. "I love you both. I don't care what pack law says." "Pack law can burn," Trevor said fiercely. "We make our own rules now," Thomas agreed. We lay there as dawn light crept through the windows, hands linked, hearts synchronized, breathing as one, complete. Outside, something shifted in the kingdom. I felt it through the bond, a shudder that ran through the earth itself. The curse weakening, crops pushing toward the light, wolves reclaiming their strength. Not fully broken, but cracking, healing. We'd done it, the three of us together. Then boots thundered in the hallway. The door burst open. Guards flooded in, followed by a tall man with cruel eyes and a crown that didn't belong to him, Lord Damon. Behind him, the Council of Elders, faces twisted with disgust and fury. "Seize them," Damon commanded. Guards hauled me from the bed, throwing a cloak around my nakedness. Thomas and Trevor surged forward, wolves rising, but more guards appeared, weapons drawn, surrounding us. "The Twin Kings are accused of heresy," Damon announced, his smile vicious. "Perverting pack law, defiling sacred bonds." His gaze found me. "The Omega will be tried and executed at sunset." Thomas's roar shook the castle. Trevor's shift began, bones cracking, fury exploding. But silver chains wrapped around them spelled metal that bound alpha power. "No!" I screamed, fighting against the hands dragging me toward the door. "You can't." "Watch us," Damon said, and the world descended into chaos. They dragged me into the great hall, still wrapped in nothing but a cloak, my feet bare against cold stone. The Council of Elders sat in a semicircle of judgment, their faces carved from disapproval and ancient prejudice. Lord Damon stood at the center like he already owned the throne. Behind me, I heard Thomas and Trevor fighting against the guards' snarls and crashes, the sound of fists meeting armor. But there were too many. Silver chains clinked, spelled metal that burned alpha skin and bound their wolves. "Careful," a guard warned. "The kings are going feral." Good. So was I. Damon's cruel smile widened as I was forced to my knees before the council. "Behold, the abomination that has corrupted our kings with dark magic." Rage ignited in my chest. I lifted my chin, meeting his gaze with every ounce of defiance I possessed. "I corrupted nothing. I saved them." "Saved?" An elder woman spat the word like poison. "You've perverted sacred law. One alpha, one mate. It has been our way since the first wolves walked these lands. Your way is killing this kingdom," I shot back. My voice rang through the hall, stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Your way left two kings cursed and dying. Your way hunted Omegas to extinction and called it tradition." "Silence," Damon roared. "You dare speak against the council?" "I dare speak the truth." I struggled to my feet despite the guards' attempts to hold me down. The mating marks on my neck burned with heat that had nothing to do with my earlier fever. "You call our bond wrong because it doesn't fit your rules. But love doesn't ask permission. It doesn't wait for approval. It just is." "Love?" The elder woman's laugh was brittle. "This is perversion. Greed. One Omega cannot serve two alphas. It goes against nature itself." My wolf surged forward, pressing against my skin. I was cast out for being broken, for having a wolf that couldn't shift properly. An Omega whose scent was unpredictable. My own father called me defective and threw me to the woods to die. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. I spent my whole life believing I was wrong. Too much, not enough, both at once. I looked back at Thomas and Trevor, still fighting their restraints, eyes blazing gold with fury and fear. For me, because of me. Then I met two kings who looked at my broken pieces and said yes, who didn't ask me to be less, who loved me not despite being shattered but because of it. Tears stream down my face now. Maybe I'm not the abomination. Maybe it's a law that says love has limits, that says broken things can't be made whole, that says I have to choose between my own heartbeats. Silence fell across the great hall. Then Damon shattered it with laughter. Beautiful speech, truly. But the law is absolute. He gestured to the guards. She must die. The curse was preferable to this perversion. Execute her, now. The guards moved forward, weapons drawn, and Thomas and Trevor snapped. The silver chains shattered like glass. Their alpha power exploded outward, raw, feral, apocalyptic. Guards flew backward, crashing into walls. Thomas shifted mid-lunge, his wolf massive and black and death-given fur. Trevor followed, equally huge, equally lethal. They were going to slaughter everyone in this room. Stop. The command tore from my throat with a force that shook the ancient stones. My Omega power erupted like a supernova golden light flooding outward in waves that crashed into every wolf in the hall. It was instinct and authority and absolute dominance wrapped in a package no alpha could resist. Thomas and Trevor froze mid-attack, their wolves whining, unable to fight the command. Every elder dropped to their knees, necks bared in submission. The guards collapsed, weapons clattering to the floor. Even Lord Damon, proud, cruel, power-hungry Damon fell, his knees hitting stone with a crack that echoed. Silence. Perfect, ringing silence. I stared at my hands, glowing with power I'd never known I possessed. My broken wolf, finally, beautifully whole. This is what an Omega can do, I said quietly, my voice carrying to every corner. Not submit, command, protect, lead. I walked toward Damon, each step deliberate. He couldn't lift his head, couldn't meet my eyes, his wolf utterly subdued by mine. You wanted the throne, I said. You want me dead. Why? He fought it. I felt his resistance, felt him struggle against the Omega authority flooding his system. But he couldn't win. I made a deal, he gasped out, the words torn from him. With a dark witch, she ensured the curse would kill the twins. Said when they died, the throne would be mine. But you, hatred, filled his voice. You're breaking it, ruining everything. You condemned an entire kingdom for power. Disgust curled through me. Thomas and Trevor, back in human form now, moved to flank me. Their presence was solid warmth at my sides, their bonds humming with protective fury through our connection. Kill him, Trevor growled. He deserves death, Thomas agreed, voice cold as winter. I felt their bloodlust through the bond justified, righteous, ready. But I'd been shown mercy once, given a chance when I deserved exile. I banish you, I said to Damon. Take your traitor's life and leave these lands. If you ever return, my mates will finish what you started today. Mercy? The elder woman whispered, still kneeling. You show him mercy? I show him what he never showed others, I replied. And what you never showed me. I released the Omega command slowly. Wolves stirred, gasping as control returned to them. But none stood, none challenged. Instead, one by one, they bowed their heads. Luna Queen Anna, the elder woman said, her voice trembling with something that might have been awe or fear or both. We acknowledge your power, your bond, your rule. Victory should have felt sweeter, but Thomas's hand found mine, squeezing tight. The curse isn't fully broken, he said quietly. Only weakened. An ancient scholar stumbled forward, clutching a leather-bound tome. The prophecy. I found the rest of it. He opened to a page marked with faded ribbon. The bond must be completed under the blood moon. A ritual of complete surrender, emotional, physical, spiritual. All three must offer their deepest truth to the magic itself. My stomach dropped. When is the blood moon? The scholar's face went pale. Tonight, my queen. It rises at midnight. Trevor cursed. Thomas's grip on my hand tightened. If we fail? I asked, though I already knew. Thomas met my eyes, his golden gaze filled with grim certainty. If we fail, the curse will kill us all. The entire kingdom, every wolf within our borders. The weight of it settled over my shoulders, Hundreds of thousands of lives resting on what the three of us could do in a sacred ritual none of us understood. Then we don't fail, I said. But my voice shook, because surrender had never been my strength. And tonight, it was the only thing that could save us. The sacred chamber lay deep beneath the castle, carved from living stone by the first wolves who'd walked these lands. Ancient symbols glowed faintly along the walls, spirals and moons and interconnected circles that pulsed with magic older than memory. I stood between Thomas and Trevor, all three of us barefoot on cold stone, dressed in simple white robes. Above us, through a circular opening in the chamber's ceiling, the blood moon rose massive, crimson, burning with otherworldly light. The ritual must begin when the moon reaches its zenith, the ancient scholar said from the chamber's entrance. His voice trembled. You have until the light touches the center of the altar. If the bonds aren't fully sealed by then. He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Thomas's hand found mine, his grip steady despite the tension radiating through him. Trevor took my other hand, his palm warm and calloused against my skin. Together, Thomas said quietly. Always, Trevor agreed. The scholar retreated, leaving us alone with ancient magic and impossible stakes. Red moonlight crept across the floor, inching toward the altar at the chamber's center, a flat stone carved with three wolves forming a circle, their tails intertwined. We moved toward it, our footsteps echoing in the sacred space. Total vulnerability, I whispered, remembering the prophecy's words. We have to offer our deepest truth, the parts we've never shown anyone. Trevor's jaw tightened, Thomas's control flickered. Even now, after everything, surrender terrified us. I'll go first, Thomas said, releasing my hand to step onto the altar. Moonlight washed over him, turning his skin silver red. He looked between Trevor and me, and I watched him shed every layer of protection he'd ever built. I've hidden behind control my whole life, he began, his voice raw and honest in a way I'd never heard. Because losing control means losing everything. It meant watching our mother die while I stood helpless. It meant carrying the weight of a kingdom on shoulders too young to bear it. It meant always being the one who had to have answers, had to be strong, had to sacrifice feeling anything so I could keep everyone else alive. His hands shook. Golden light began to emanate from his mating mark. But Anna, you taught me that surrender isn't weakness, that opening my heart doesn't mean it will shatter, that trusting someone else with my broken pieces doesn't make me less of a king, it makes me human. He looked at me with eyes full of tears he'd never allowed himself to shed. I surrender to you, to this bond. I trust you with every broken piece of me. I love you with everything I've spent my life trying to protect. His gaze shifted to Trevor. And I trust my brother to share this without it destroying us, to be stronger together than we ever could be apart. The bond between us flared brilliant gold, warm and right and true. Trevor stepped onto the altar next, his warrior's frame taut with emotion. Red moonlight carved shadows across his face, revealing vulnerability he'd always hidden behind strength and violence. I've always believed I'm the lesser twin, he said, the confession tearing from him like it hurt. Thomas was always smarter, more controlled, better suited to rule. I was just the weapon he pointed at problems, the muscle, the one who broke things while he fixed them. His voice cracked. I spent my whole life trying to prove I was worthy of standing beside him, trying to be enough when everything told me I wasn't. He met my eyes, and the love there stole my breath. But you see me, Anna, not as Trevor the warrior or Trevor the king, just Trevor. The man who's terrified of being alone, who loves too fiercely, who'd burn the world down to keep you safe. His hands unclenched, surrendering. I surrender my doubt, my fear that I'm not enough. I choose to believe I'm worthy because you chose me, not in spite of my flaws, but with them. He looked at Thomas. And I trust that sharing you doesn't mean losing you, that there's enough love here for all of us. Without competition, the bond blazed brighter, connecting all three of us in a web of golden light. Now it was my turn. I stepped onto the altar, standing between them. The blood moon hung directly above now, its light pouring down like liquid fire. Every carving in the chamber glowed, responding to the magic building between us. My deepest truth, the fear I'd carried since childhood. I've believed I was broken since my pack cast me out, I said, tears already streaming down my face. Defective, wrong, a mistake the moon goddess made and forgot to fix. My wolf couldn't shift properly. My scent was unpredictable. I was too much and not enough all at once, and no one wanted the mess I came in. Thomas and Trevor moved closer, flanking me, their presence solid and warm. I learned to make myself small, to apologize for existing, to believe that if someone ever truly saw me, all my cracks and broken edges and impossible needs, they'd do what everyone else did. They'd leave. My voice broke. And when you both wanted me, when I felt pulled to you both, I thought it proved I was wrong. That wanting two people meant I was greedy, damaged, perverted. I looked at Thomas. You taught me that broken pieces can still be valuable. I looked at Trevor. You taught me that wanting everything doesn't make me selfish. I linked hands with both of them. I surrender my shame, my belief that I don't deserve this. I accept that I'm not broken. I'm exactly what the moon goddess intended. A wolf built for multiple bonds. An omega designed to love without limits. I accept that I deserve this love. This life. Both of you. The words hung in the air, shimmering with truth. Then magic erupted. Golden light exploded from our joined hands, racing up our arms, connecting our mating marks. The bonds between us didn't just glow, they sang. A harmony so perfect it brought me to my knees. Thomas and Trevor knelt with me. The three of us forming a circle on the altar as ancient magic recognized what we'd offered. Total surrender. Complete vulnerability. Truth so deep, it rewrote destiny. Our wolves surged forward, merging spiritually in a way that should have been impossible. I felt Thomas's wolf steady, protective, fierce with love. I felt Trevor's wolf wild, devoted, burning with need. And they felt mine no longer broken but whole, designed specifically for this moment. This bond, these mates, the curse shattered. I felt it break like chains snapping, dark magic unraveling, poison draining from the land. The explosion of golden light tore through the chamber, up through the opening, racing across the kingdom like dawn breaking after endless night. We collapsed together, gasping, clinging to each other as the ritual completed. The bond sealed fully, permanently, perfectly. When we finally managed to stand and climb back to the surface, the world had transformed. Through the castle windows, I watched crops pushing through soil with impossible speed, trees unfurling new leaves, wolves howling with joy as their strength returned. The curse was gone, broken, defeated by love that refused to follow rules. 6 months later, I stood between two thrones, my own throne smaller but equal positioned at their center. The coronation ceremony had drawn wolves from every corner of the kingdom and beyond. Luna Queen Anna, the elder woman announced, placing a silver circlet on my head. Mate to the twin kings, mother of the air, breaker of curses. My pregnant belly was impossible to hide, swollen with twins of our own. No one knew which king had fathered them. We'd never ask. They were ours, all of ours, the same way I belonged to both Thomas and Trevor. The crowd erupted in howls of approval. Former enemies bowed, rival packs who'd threatened war now seeking alliance. Pack law had been rewritten. One alpha, one mate was no longer absolute. Love defined bonds now, not tradition. At the back of the hall, I spotted a familiar face. My father, older now, his alpha presence diminished. He'd come to witness what his defective daughter had become. Our eyes met across the distance. He stepped forward, opening his mouth to speak, probably to reclaim me, to pretend he'd always believed in me. I raised one hand. "You called me broken," I said, my voice carrying through the silent hall. "You were right. I broke every rule that said I couldn't have this, shattered every expectation that tried to make me small. And I'd do it again." My father's mouth snapped shut. After a long moment, he bowed and retreated. I turned back to my mates, to my people, to the future we'd fought for. "Let the feast begin," Trevor called, grinning. 2 years later, the throne room had been remodeled, 3 thrones instead of 1, positioned in a triangle so we always faced each other. 2 toddlers played on the plush carpet between them, their laughter echoing off ancient stones. I watched Thomas on the floor with our son Elias, teaching him to read from a massive book of legends. Watched Trevor shifting into his wolf so our daughter Lyra could climb on his back and pretend to ride into battle. My hand rested on my belly, swollen again with another child. I thought love meant sacrifice, I reflected, a small smile playing on my lips. Choosing one dream over another, one person over another. But real love meant being brave enough to want everything and accept that I deserved it all along. "Anna." Thomas's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Come here." I joined them on the floor, Elias immediately climbing into my lap. Trevor shifted back to human and pulled Lyra close. We formed a circle, the same formation from the ritual, now filled with children and laughter and life. "Family dinner in an hour," I reminded them. The council wants to meet tomorrow, Thomas said. The Northern Pack is sending ambassadors next week, Trevor added. But right now, none of that mattered. Thomas leaned over and kissed my temple. You saved us all, my love. Trevor nuzzled into my neck, right over his mating mark. You were never broken, Anna. You were perfect, our perfect mate. Elias giggled. Lyra demanded another wolf ride, and I finally, truly believed them. 25 years later, the documentary crew set up cameras in the throne room where it all began. I sat between Thomas and Trevor, older now, silver threading through our hair, but our bonds as strong as ever. Tell us how it started, the interviewer asked. Thomas and Trevor exchanged the same loaded look they'd shared that first night. I'd asked the impossible question. She asked if she could have both of us, Trevor said, grinning. And we were smart enough to say yes, Thomas added. Our 5 children, grown now, with families of their own, filled the room. Elias, serious and studious like Thomas. Lyra, wild and fierce like Trevor. The younger 3 carrying pieces of us all. 15 grandchildren ran through the halls. The curse was a distant memory. Pack law had transformed across the entire wolf world. Love without limits was no longer heresy, it was hope. Any regrets? The interviewer asked. I looked at my mates, my children, the life we'd built from broken pieces and impossible love. Not one, I said, and I meant it. Thank you for reading Anna, Thomas, and Trevor's story. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, where are you watching from? What was your favorite moment in this story? Rate this story on a scale of 1 to 10. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Until next time, may you find the courage to choose love without limits.